Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's lesson. My name is Miss B, and I am so excited to get to do another math lesson with you guys today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so you can follow along with what's going on and so that you can get a better understanding of what we are doing. All right, so today we are going to be talking about building pictographs. I know in a couple previous lessons I've talked about bar graphs, but today we're talking about pictographs, which is so exciting because it's a new topic for all of us. So let's go ahead and jump in. Before we do though, I always like to go over our standard and objective, and the reason for this is so that you guys know what you should be learning, and so that if you feel like at the end you didn't learn it, you know you need to put in some more work or maybe try a different way of learning. So our objective today is by the end of this lesson, you will be able to build a graph using pictures to represent data. So all that means is that we are going to be building graphs and we are going to be using pictures to do it. It's different than a bar graph, but it is really, really fun to kind of collect data this way. And then our standard, which is just what we should be learning based on what the state is learning, other people are learning, that is draw a picture graph and bar graph with a single unit scale to represent a data set with up to 4 categories. Solve simple, put together, take apart, and compare problems using information presented in the graph. So again, today we're mostly going to be focusing on building these and creating them, and then later on I'll tell you guys how to solve these and answer questions a little bit better. But for this specific lesson, we're mostly going to be focusing just on how to build them. All right, so this is the time to grab paper and writing utensils. Again, I always say this, but whatever kind of paper you have is okay. I use blank paper. And if you guys could get more than one writing utensil, so maybe like lots of markers or lots of colored pencils or crayons, that would be awesome. This will help you follow along so much more and just make our pictures a little bit more colorful and easy for us to gather data from. But if you don't have that, that is okay. We will make this lesson work with whatever materials you do have, and you can always just watch. So don't worry if you don't have something or you feel like you don't have enough. Whatever you have, again, we will make it work. So go ahead and pause this video and you guys can grab those materials and then we will get started with our lesson. All right, you guys, so hopefully you have gotten what you needed and let's go ahead and get started. So this is just a picture of a pictograph. Now, I am missing a couple things in this picture that I do want to explain, but when you first look at it, just ask yourself some questions. What do you think is happening here? Read the labels, look at the pictures. What do you think is happening? What information do you think we're getting? And why do you think this is important? So go ahead, ask yourself those questions. You can say them out loud to me or tell someone who's with you. And just say those out and then we'll go over this. So I'll tell you guys a couple things I noticed when looking at this pictograph. The first thing is I see the label. It says our favorite seasons. So that means that I know that this pictograph is about favorite seasons. That is so helpful, just having that title up there. Even though I don't have the written information, that tells me what this is about, and that is so, so helpful. So I know that this pictograph is about our favorite seasons. Now I'm gonna look to the label on the left, and it says number of students. So when I see that number of students, I know that they probably asked a certain number of students what their favorite season was. And then of course on the bottom here, on the x-axis that goes this way, we have the x-axis and the y-axis. The x-axis, you can see it's labeled by spring, summer, fall, and winter. Those are the options that those students have to pick from. So with that being said, I can see that probably a number of students were surveyed and they were asked which one is their favorite season, and these pictures represent the answers that they gave. So I do want to say one thing that we are missing from this that I would normally like to see with a pictograph is a key. And what a key is, if you're not familiar, it is a little symbol that kind of shows like how much each picture is worth. So I can show you guys an example that I already have, but I don't want to give too much of it away. But a key, like I said, just shows the value of each picture. So when I see, you know, one leaf for fall, how many votes is that? Is that one vote? Is that two votes? What does that mean? I made one, which again, I'm not going to show you, but I made one with pencils, and you can see my key is when you have one pencil, it equals one pencil. But some pictographs will have one pencil stands for two votes. And if they cut the pencil in half, that is one vote. But here, it looks like each one is about two votes. So let's look. On spring, this one is a little bit funky, but it looks to me like there are 5 people who like spring. And not only can you see that by the pictures, but you can also look on our y-axis and see the numbers. So I see that there's a 4 on the y-axis. It's a little bit fuzzy here, but there's a 4 on the y-axis, but our picture on spring goes above the 4. But it does not go up to 6. So that tells me that there are 5 people who like spring. Now let's look over at summer. All right, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 suns, but each sun stands for 2 votes, right? So I'm going to look up and over and see that there are 10 people who have summer as their favorite season. Now I'm going to move over to fall. So we have 5 and we have 10. Let's look at fall. All right, so here I see about 1.5 leaves. And in case you're not familiar with, you know, what that number might be, go ahead, look up. Okay, we passed the 2, but we're under the 4. So that tells me that this is a 3. So there are 3 people who like fall. All right, now let's look at winter. I see 2 snowflakes. It doesn't look like they're cut in half. So I would say there are 4 people who like winter the best. Now, if you look up at the line and you look over, you will see the number 4, so we were correct. So for spring, there were 5 people, summer, 10, fall, 3, and winter, 4. So those are that's the data we got from this chart. And again, this was just an example that I could find online. Usually they wouldn't be so blurry. I'm really sorry if it's hard to see. I tried to kind of explain that for you guys so you could follow along with what is going on here. So that is our example. I am actually going to build a pictograph, and I would love for you guys to just follow along. You don't have to do it as well. If you guys just want to watch this one, that is awesome. So I'm going to take my blank piece of paper and I am just going to start. So I'm going to start by drawing kind of like an L shape. All right, so we are building our x-axis and our y-axis both. So here is it's like a really large L. All right. What I'm going to do is read this question. It says, Miss Smith handed out gold stars to students who brought extra school supplies to class. Elliot received 4 gold stars, Mark received 3, Kate received 7, and Lila received 9. Build a pictograph to represent the data given. All right. So I know that for my picture, am going to use stars. And the reason why is because that's what we're talking about. So that would be a great thing to use there. I'm going to label my x-axis with the names of the students, okay? So I'm going to start with Elliot. I'm going to move on to Mark. All right. And I am going to write Kate. And finally, Lila. All right, now that that is done, I am going to now mark up the y-axis. The y-axis. So I'm going to do it up to 10. So I'm going to start with 0. You always put 0 in the corner here. Most of the time, you will put that there, and we will start and go from 1 and so on and so forth. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I'm going to make mine up to 10. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Perfect. So now we have those. Awesome. Now that we're finished with that, I am going to label this, okay? So my label on the side, on the y-axis here, is going to be number of stars, right? Number of stars. And then I'm going to write students for my label. Who earned stars. Okay, so I wrote number of stars and students who earned stars, as you guys can see. So that is how this is starting off. Now I'm going to make a little key on the side, okay? So for our key, I want each star to represent just one star. So all I'm going to do is draw my star, and I'm going to say equals 1 star. That is it. That's all I need to do for my key. That will tell my audience who's reading this what they need to look for. Okay, now it's finally time to put in my data. Let's see, how many stars did Elliot receive? He received 4. So I'm going to start by drawing my 4 stars here. One on top of the other. Okay. He received 4 stars, and I'm going to show you guys this so you guys can see how it looks. Elliot received 4 stars. Not only are there 4 stars above his name, but if you look at the 4 on the y-axis and you move your pen over, you can see that it lines up with 4. So there are 2 different ways to kind of see how many stars are there. Now let's look at Mark. Mark received 3. So above Mark's name, I'm going to draw the 3 stars. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. So there are 3 above his name, and if you look and go over, he matches where the 3 mark is. Now it says Kate received 7. So I need to draw 7 stars above Kate's name. I'm starting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and one more, 7. Awesome. So I didn't quite color those in, but if you look, the 7, you put your pen over, it lines up with the 7 there, and you can see above her name are 7 stars. Now let's finally look at Lila. Lila received 9. So let's draw these stars above her name. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so above Lila's name, you can see that I drew 9 stars. And you take it over, you can see it lines up with the 9 on the y-axis, and there are also 9. So one way you can know how many she received is just to count them, or you can make sure that's correct by taking your pen over and making sure it lines up with that 9. So the benefit of having a pictograph is that you can visually see what is happening and kind of compare the data. So you know, okay, Lila earned the most stars. We can see that. Who earned the least amount of stars? Well, clearly that is Mark. So that is why having a pictograph is so helpful. Now, I would love for you guys to take out a piece of paper and we are going to build one together. I am going to have you guys try to build one on your own, but for right now, let's just focus on trying together. So take out a piece of paper and I will read the problem. It says, Miss Gilman's class created paper hearts. Casey created 6, Nevin created 3, and Sam created 5. Represent this data by creating a pictograph. All right, so here we only have 3 students that we are going to represent. And just before you even start, think about what picture you're going to use to represent. I think it would be a great idea to use hearts since we are already talking about hearts. So let's go ahead and get started. Our very first step is to, if you guys know, say it out loud. We are going to start by drawing our kind of L shape, right? It's not quite an L, it's a little bit bigger than that, but it is an L shape. So that is how we are going to start. Now, what's next? If you guys know, you can say it out. The next step is to label the axis, the x-axis. Let's start with that. So we can start with labeling Casey, Nevin, and Sam, okay? So Casey, Nevin, and Sam. All right, Casey, Nevin, and Sam. Now we need to do that y-axis. So we have them labeled down here. We're going to put our 0 here, and we are going to fill up this axis until we get to 10. So I'll show you guys when I'm done so you can make sure you did the same thing. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I always like to go all the way up to 10 on this. Even if our numbers are like smaller than 10, I always like to go just a little bit higher than what our biggest number is. So now we have both axes. They both have numbers and then the label down here. We need to label these. So let's think. What should we label our y-axis? And our y-axis is this one. All right. Hopefully you guys said number of hearts, right? Number of hearts. And then on our x-axis, we can just write students, because that gives us a good idea what they are creating and who these students are. Now, before we jump into actually creating our pictograph, we need to make sure that we have made a key. All right, so let's make our key. Okay. So we're just going to say that 1 heart equals, so we can do a heart equals 1 heart, right? Even if you guys are not planning on anything different, it's important that you write that so that your audience knows what they're looking at, how to interpret that data. So up here I have our key and it says heart equals 1 heart. We have our labels, we have our students, and I think we're ready to start drawing these hearts. So I am going to start and let's look. How many hearts did Casey create? 6. So let's go ahead and fill up Casey's column with 6 hearts. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Awesome, awesome. You guys can color that in if you want, but for now I have 6. And again, you can see that By counting these, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you can take the even faster route and look at the y-axis here and look 6 over, and you will find that heart. So we are good to go on that one. Let's look at Nevin. How many hearts did Nevin create? 3. So let's draw our 3 hearts. 1, 2, and 3. Awesome. 1, 2, and 3. There we are. Perfect, perfect. Again, same thing. You can just count the hearts, or you can look 3 and move it over and see that it is at 3 on the graph there. Now let's talk about Sam. How many hearts did Sam make? 5. Awesome. So let's draw those 5 hearts. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Perfect. 5 hearts, same thing. You can count the hearts, or you can just look over on our graph. Again, we can answer questions like who made the most hearts, who made the least, and this chart is what gives us that data to answer those questions, which is really exciting. So I'll ask you guys, who made the most paper hearts? Casey. Who made the least? Nevin. All right, so that is just one reason why pictographs are awesome, because it gives you an entertaining visual to be able to find out information. So now this is your turn to try. I am going to read this question out with you and guide you a little bit, but I would love for you to create your very own pictograph. It does not have to be perfect, but just something a little bit like what we have been doing is awesome. So this question says, Mr. Ford's class cleaned out their desks. Stuart found 6 pencils, Jada found 6 pencils, Lena found 2 pencils, and Chester found 5 pencils. Use this data to create a pictograph. So you guys can read that as many times as you need to, but that is the data you will be using to create a pictograph. And again, if I were you, think about what you want to use for your picture. What are you representing? I think a pencil would be a great picture to use and a great illustration. A couple things, don't forget to label and also to create a key. But go ahead and pause this video and try it for yourself. All right, hopefully you guys tried out that problem to create a graph, and I'm gonna show you what it should look a little bit like. Of course, it is your own pictograph, so it might not look exactly like this, but hopefully it looks something like this. So here's the pictograph I created for that problem. Up here, we have the key, and it has 1 pencil, and we have our numbers on the side here, and we have the pencils representing what they need to represent. We have the students labeled down here. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen for a second so you guys can see this really well. There we go. And this is what yours should look like. If it doesn't, you guys can also always ask an adult for help, or try again. Maybe watch the other problems again, and I'm sure you guys will get it. But as you guys can see, both Stuart and Jada found 6. They're up here. Lena found 2, it's down here. And Chester found how many? 5. So that is what that should look like. Now I'm going to share my screen with you guys one more time so that we can go over our objective again. All right, here we go. Okay. So here is our objective review. So our objective was, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to build a graph. Whoops, it's loading. You will be able to build a graph using pictures to represent data, right? So do you guys feel like you reached that objective? Give me a thumbs up if yes, and a thumbs down if not. Hopefully you guys all gave a thumbs up. I know I feel like I learned so much about pictographs and how to build them, but if you feel like you didn't, be sure to ask an adult for help and use the resources that are available to keep learning. I promise you guys, this will be so helpful for you as you continue on in your learning journey. So that is all I have for you guys today. I hope that you have an awesome rest of your day and that you just keep on learning. Okay, bye-bye.